Hey, how's it going out there, people? Well, welcome to the second episode of Conversations with Follow Me Bay. Second episode titled HBCUs versus PWIs. And for those of you who don't know what HBCU stands for, it stands for Historically Black Colleges or University. Now, before we get into the conversation, let's get a brief history description of HBCUs. There's roughly around 76 to 77 HBCUs in America. Out of these 76 or 77 HBCUs, roughly 80 to 90% of these HBCUs were founded by Europeans, whether it be public or private. And so, with that being said, when one has the HBCU versus a PWI debate, one must understand that when a person says that, he or she is not actually saying that the HBCU is better than the PWI from an educational standpoint. He or she is standing from an environmental standpoint. Let me break it down for you. When it comes to education, whether it be public or private, whether it be HBCU or PWI, we all are still getting the same European education pushing the European agenda. Even if you go to an HBCU, you're still getting a European written history textbook, no matter what the subject is. You still have to get certain classes to graduate from that institution, which is a European agenda. And you have to learn certain materials that are European agendas. So when it comes to education between the HBCU and the PWI, it's the same thing. Now, if you want to argue about the quality or the professors or things of that nature, that's a different discussion. But at the end of the day, we're both getting the same Europeanized agenda education. So we're not arguing on that basis. I mean, HBCUs, some of them barely have African American Studies majors, and it's an HBCU. Some HBCUs only require you to take black classes your first semester. So if you go to school for 4 years, full time, and you have 36 classes in these 4 years, and out of the 36, only 4 classes are required for you to graduate from an HBCU, what was the point of you going there in the first place if you're still getting a lack of knowledge of self at this HBCU? So when we say HBCU versus PWI, my HBCU is better than your school, and I'm so glad I went to my HBCU, and I love my HBCU from the things that it has taught me. This is coming from an environmental standpoint. Because at the HBCU, you don't have to deal with discrimination. You don't have to deal with racism. You go to class with people who look just like you and I, and they want you there for who you are, not to meet a minority quota, or not to get extra money in, or not just to say they did it, or not to fulfill the basketball team, or the football team, or the baseball team. See, at PWIs, they get all this money off of minorities, blacks in particular. But you look around the campus, once you get away from the basketball team and the football team, there's no blacks. So once football season over with, that all-star black man, that all-star running back and quarterback and safety and wide receiver, he becomes null and void, maybe until spring ball. That's why they always get in trouble in between spring ball time and real football time. Basketball is the same way. Once basketball season is over with, or until basketball season, you're just another minority student walking around campus. So when we say these things, we're talking about from an environmental standpoint. So, at an HBCU, you don't have to worry about a black student lounge, a black student week, a black student day, where they have to do all these things to make you feel accommodated and make you feel wanted. You don't have to do that there. You don't have to do that at HBCU because you already wanted. The art student union is the same one. You don't have to do those types of things. Also, At HBCU, with the things that go around, it gives you the greatest tool you can ever have, which is knowledge of self. Knowledge of self at HBCU isn't hidden from you like it is at the PWI. At the PWI, that knowledge is hidden from you. For you to find that knowledge, you have to go and ask questions and find these books that are deep, deep, deep in the library. At HBCU, no. It's there in your face. It's for the taking. It's for the people around you. That's where it's at. So don't get it twisted when one says HBCU is better than the PWI. People like to say, oh, well, my PWI, I couldn't afford this and I couldn't afford that, and they offered me money. Or it was closer to home. Or the main thing I really hear is money. Okay? So let me break it down for you. If these prominent black players that go to PWI, went to HBCUs, then that money will come to the HBCUs. Think about it. See, people go to these PWIs on scholarships. We talk about sports for a moment. On sports scholarships, right? And they say, yeah, I got a full ride. They got this facility. They got Nike sponsoring them, Jordan, Adidas, whatsoever, right? And they think they're getting a free education. They're not noticing that this money they're getting isn't coming from the education department. It's coming from the sports department, the athletic director's department, correct? Now, so you think you're paying for your education, right? But you have to understand, and this is the argument that's currently going on between the NCAA and the college players. Say you're the big recruit. You're the star quarterback, the 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. You go to a PWI. You go to Michigan. You go to the big house, right? I'm not sure how much it costs us to go to Michigan. A year, let's say it costs about $50,000, right? You go there 4 years, $200,000. To you, this is a free scholarship, right? Free education. Okay. How many jerseys do they sell with your number on it? How many people come to the stands to see you perform because you are the big star quarterback or the big star lineman or the big star D lineman or the big star wide receiver? If you went to a HBCU, those same people will come to the HBCU to see you play because they like the sport that much. See, if the black kids went to the HBCUs, the HBCU would be the SEC or the Big 10 or the Big 12. See, but we're so tricked and bamboozled into thinking that it can't be possible that we go to these PWIs. And then you go to these PWIs, you got to deal with a Missouri, right? When you stand up for something you believe in your own pride and color and your own history and culture, that the football people tell you, either you play or we take your scholarship and we send you right back to the ghetto. Because you stood up for yourself. Because you stood up for your people. Right? And this is the people you play for. You make your money every day. There'll never be a nigger in that S.A.N.E. You can't even say anything about that. Master just wants you to play football and keep your mouth shut. See, this is the difference between HBCU and the PWI. You don't got to deal with that at HBCU. Even at a fraternity, a sorority standpoint. You don't have to deal with those things. Those things don't come about at a HBCU. The environment at HBCU, yeah, it might be a little low budget. Yeah, the food might not be that great, but those things happen everywhere. Don't get caught up on the hype with HBCUs or party schools, because those PWIs party harder than anybody in the country. Don't get caught up on the non-safety rule. It's violence everywhere. So you can't get caught up in these things, these prestigious things, and these stars that they give themselves. You have to understand the difference between these schools is nothing but money. A few grants here and there, land grants. It's money. That's what it's about. That's what keeps it going. It's all about money. In-state, out-of-state, color, this scholarship, that scholarship. It's all about money. But at HBCU, the knowledge you get about yourself is the difference. Because the lack of knowledge of self is what keeps us in a state amount of oppression that we are in. You come to an HBCU, you get an education, a Europeanized education, but you get the knowledge of self that no one else will teach you but the peers that look like you. Because they have to deal with the same stuff you deal with on a daily basis. You can't walk around the campus of Ohio State, in Michigan State, in Michigan, in a Penn State, or LSU, or Texas, or Vanderbilt, or Tennessee, or Ole Miss, and expect those Europeans to relate to you. They can't. There's a thing called white privilege out there. They don't know what it's like to be you. They can't come to tell you and say, oh, I know what it's like to be black. They don't. Never have, never will. Just like you can't say, I know what it's like to be white privileged. You never know that. You don't know what it feels like every time you get in your car and the police are behind you. Your body get a little still because you don't know what the hell is about to happen. They don't know that feeling. They don't know what it's like to be in the ghetto. They don't know. So they can't relate to you in that aspect. They don't know and they don't have the knowledge to give you so you can enhance your own skills. The knowledge of self that you need. So we can get this thing turned around. We, as a whole. The power is in the people, not in the individual. You got to remember that. We have to turn this thing around. So when the HBCU versus PWI debate comes up, remember, it's not an educational thing. It's an environmental thing. It's not a black student union thing. It's not a black wheat thing. Nah. That's what it's about. It's about knowledge of self. It's about right here. It's about that pineal gland. That third eye. Oh, yeah, they ain't telling you about that. Ain't no PWI. And the PWI, they telling you that the pyramids of Egypt were built by aliens that came and left. African American history, or studies, was created by 2 Europeans. One might have been a Jew, or a so-called Jew. See, these are things you have to know, you have to understand. At the PWI, your textbook say the same thing my textbook opened it up. Black people came from slavery and savages and caves. Nah. Ever heard a European man say, I'd rather be a monkey's uncle? He know where he come from. He know the truth. Ever seen the back of a European man? Ever seen a body? Hairy as all get out. I digress on that. HBCU versus PWIs. There's no comparison. For us, it's not. The HBCU is where we need to be. And it's not for the education. It's for the environment. It's for the environment standpoint. You can get a European education from anywhere. All the textbooks say the same thing. One just older and newer than the other one. But they all say the same thing. That's why they have standardized tests you have to take to graduate. So they can be teaching the different stuff, because then it'll be different tests. But they're all the same. The European educational system teaches one to be a worker in the United States, in this corporation. That's what it does. It doesn't give you knowledge of self if you're black. It doesn't give you the knowledge of self to open up your own business or to invest your own money. Or just the knowledge of self to even know where the hell you come from and who you are as kings and queens. They don't tell you that. That's not what you get. That is not what you get at a PWI. That's not up for debate. The proof is in the pudding. It's there. Let you step out of line at a PWI. Let you not go to class at a PWI. Did the teacher pull you to the side and say, hey, man, get yourself together? I know you're on the name basis, or you just a little number in their book, a social security number in their book. Did they call your parents? They do that at HBCUs. Won't kick you out on the first go. We take care of each other. We make sure we all accounted for and we get it done. We're a family, an HBCU family. That's the difference, and we all know it. So look out for the next episode. I'll tell you what it's going to be via Instagram, Facebook, But the conversation is going to get deeper. And remember, HBCU versus the PWI. It's environmental. It's not education. You can keep your European education. Honestly, we don't want it. It does nothing for us. We like knowledge of self. We like knowing who we are. We like knowing where we're going. We like knowing where we come from. The truth. The hidden truth. That they got buried under other stuff. That's what we like. Peace.